You won't even be able to guess why Borrachinha has made the headlines this time, folks. Yeah, Paulo Costa stirred up the press with his unexpected comments about Khamzat Chimaev. As you must already know, Chimaev's latest missed weight fiasco at UFC 279 has caused quite a lot of controversy, and according to Paulo Costa, well, he's the one who caused it. Confused? Listen on to find out what we mean. First off, what's Chimaev's missed weight controversy all about? If you needed to be caught up to speed on what's going on with Borz, we've got you. Basically, when the UFC's 10th pay-per-view event at T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas took place on Saturday, the 10th of September, Khamzat Chimaev and the rest of the UFC world were in for a shocking surprise. The Chechen-born Swedish sensation was 7.5 pounds above the agreed weight limit. Obviously, the cards had to be reshuffled, and the mixed martial artist ended up with Kevin Holland as his opponent, rather than the originally settled Nate Diaz. Holland turned out to be an easy breezy win for Chimaev, as the Swede managed to score a first-round submission over him just 2 minutes 13 seconds in. Pretty routine for Borz, we have to say. The post-match conferences, though, were, as you can probably imagine, a total riot. Everyone just had one question they wanted to ask Chimaev and his team. Will he be moving up to middleweight? UFC President Dana White definitely seems to think so. In the post-fight press conference, he was asked to comment on Khamzat's missed weight controversy. He stated that there were many different possibilities now for Borz, mainly in the 170 and 185 pound bouts. Seems like we'll just have to wait and see. Let's talk about how exactly this is related to Paulo Costa. Right about now, you might be thinking, what does Borrachinha even mean by saying he's responsible for Chimaev's missing weight? Can a fighter cause another fighter to physically miss weights before a match? Sounds absolutely mind-boggling, right? Well, don't worry, that's not the case over here. Costa and Chimaev have struck up a tiny little rivalry over the past month or so, and Costa's new remarks are really just part of this feud. It all started when he was asked about his predictions for the Diaz-Chimaev bout. We have to admit, Costa calling Borz a gourmet Chechen and a fake gangster in response was pretty funny. Not for the man in question, though. Following these comments, the two fighters had a semi-confrontation at the UFC Performance Institute. The Swede fighter seemed pretty heated up and threatened to attack the Brazilian who was training inside the ring. We're glad the ring and several fighters were there to prevent any showdowns, or we might have gotten even more drama. Poor Costa, for his part, just made do by laughing off Chimaev's threats. But after the Kevin Holland fight, when Khamzat emerged victorious, Borrachinha chimed in to say that he was the reason for the missed weight. His justification? He'd apparently antagonized Chimaev enough that the Chechen sensation ended up missing weight due to the stress. I stole some of his high. I stole his sleep. I stole his cap. I stole his main event fight. I stole everything. Not to be rude, but that's a pretty ridiculous thing to say, even by UFC standards. Maybe you should just stick to the trash talking, Costa. Moving on, Paulo challenges Khamzat to a fight. Yes, people, he didn't stop there. On Monday's MMA Hour, Costa directly addressed the camera and declared that he wanted to fight Khamzat Chimaev. Not in those exact words, of course. The Brazilian mixed martial artist made sure to add the dramatic, "I stole everything that you had, including your weigh-in lines," to add fuel to the fire, and then expressed his challenge to the other fighter. Now, Costa's last fight was in August, UFC 278, against Luke Rockhold, where he made a disclosed $65,000 to show and $65,000 to win. This means he isn't ruling out a new contract with the UFC. Bear in mind that his current contract has only one fight remaining. Maybe that's why he's so hell-bent on bagging Chimaev as his opponent, going off with a flare and whatnot. He has specified certain terms for the would-be match, though. Thankfully, these aren't nearly as far-fetched as his Chimaev missed weight justification. The most important out of these is obviously his weight limit. As of now, Costa's clocking in at 207 pounds, and according to him, even that is leaner than usual for him. He of course illustrated this by flexing on the MMA Hour set. "I cannot do 170, Costa said. "You think I can make 170? 185 is the deepest that I can do." This is honestly kind of the perfect situation for both fighters. Costa's aiming for a middleweight fight, and Chimaev is expecting to join the same division soon as well. Other than that, Borz also had to deal with the lingering effects of getting COVID-19, and his head coach has previously said that cutting back to welterweight might be really difficult for him. Not to mention that the 28-year-old fighter is quickly edging towards the 30s mark, and any UFC fanatic will tell you that cutting weight becomes even harder after you hit that age. Seems like Costa and Chimaev are pretty much a match made in heaven if you ask us. This potential fight would give them the chance to blow off the steam they've gathered around each other, and really any UFC fan would die to see the two face off in the ring. Now onto other related news. Firstly, UFC president is aggressively persuading Nate Diaz for a Mike Perry fight. Saturday, the 10th of September, didn't only see Khamzat Chimaev missing weight and reshuffling cards. Nate Diaz wasn't far behind in the headlines, beating Tony Ferguson in a 4-round knockout. After the match, the fighter announced some really exciting news. He's leaving UFC to create and manage his own company, Real Fight Inc. Yup, Diaz is soon going to be running his MMA and boxing themed company, along with other initiatives he announced. But offers are being extended to the fighter left and right. One such offer came from bare knuckle fighting competition president David Feldman. The president is planning to make aggressive moves to lure Diaz into accepting. He even has an opponent in mind for him, UFC veteran Mike Perry. "I can't tell you whether he's coming or not, but I can tell you that we want him here at the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, and we're gonna do everything that we can do to get him here at Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship," revealed Feldman while speaking to Bloody Elbow. He does plan on respecting Diaz's wish to eventually re-sign with the UFC by giving him a substantial window. Guess we'll just have to wait and see what's next in store for Nate Diaz. From potential Jake Paul fights to dipping his toes into WWE, the rumor mill has been kept well fed with his departure. We have to say though, an epic Perry-Diaz BKFC fight sounds amazing. Next, 17-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. manages to blow away Dana White. Not sure who we're talking about? Don't worry. At 17 years of age, Rosas Jr. became the youngest UFC fighter in the history of the sport on Tuesday, the 20th of September. What led the company to sign him a contract? Well, his absolutely epic win over 25-year-old seasoned fighter Mondo Gutierrez at the Contender Series, of course. Dana White, who was overseeing the performances of the night, was definitely amazed by the young fighter's abilities. And you know you've got some real kick-ass talent when the president of the UFC compliments you unrestrainedly. At the press conference, White said, "For a 17-year-old to conduct himself the way he did in this fight, I was blown away by it." Continuing with the praise, White commented that Rosas Jr.'s active attitude and cardio in the fight were impressive, illustrated by how he never once appeared exhausted in the fight. Skeptics will be skeptics though, and many are wondering if a UFC contract is too soon for a teenage fighter. The president provided a simple solution for that, saying that they probably wouldn't bring him to fight in Vegas anytime soon, even comparing him to Mickey Gall. Raul definitely has a promising career laid out in front of him right now, and we're sure as heck excited to see it play out. Last but not least, Joe Rogan says him and Dana White are a package deal. You might know him now through the massive popularity of his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, but Rogan is a renowned fixture in the UFC world at the broadcast desk. For more than 2 decades now, the comedian has been the lead commentator for countless UFC domestic pay-per-view events. In a recent episode of his podcast, though, he stated that his contract quite literally said that his time in UFC is dictated by Dana White's time in UFC. "If Dana leaves, I'm gone," said Rogan. Not too surprising, considering they both had their starts in the field at around the same time. Rogan debuted his UFC commentating career all the way back in 1997, and even though his features in the sport nowadays have become less frequent, we hope he sticks around for as long as he can. That's all the news about Paulo Costa Costa's various remarks regarding Khamzat Chimaev we have for you today. Do you think a showdown between the two is a possibility in the near future? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.